Cells are dying inside you right now. Not from disease, not from injury. From the meal you ate 3 hours ago, and before you click away. That's not a scare tactic. That's the mechanism a Japanese scientist proved so rigorously that he was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2016. His finding was simple and devastating. Every time you reach for a snack, you switch off the only internal cleaning system your body has. The system that hunts down defective cells, the exact kind scientists have linked to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and accelerated aging. But that's not even the most important part. Here's what nobody tells you about your body fat. Right now, your fat stores might be completely locked, not symbolically, chemically. As long as one specific hormone is elevated in your bloodstream, your fat cells are sealed shut. You can run 5 miles. You can count every calorie. You can try every diet the internet has invented. The fat does not burn because the lock hasn't been opened, and the key has nothing to do with the gym. In this video, we're going to walk through what actually happens inside your body, hour by hour, from the moment you stop eating. We're not talking motivation. We're not talking willpower. We're talking biochemistry, with the actual names of the hormones, the enzymes, and the processes involved. In plain English, here's what's coming. At hour 4, you hit the fork in the road, the exact moment where 90% of people unknowingly shut the whole process down. At hour 8, your body makes a decision that changes everything, one that most people have never allowed it to make. At hour 12, your brain switches to a fuel source that makes you genuinely sharper. Not a placebo effect, measurable. At hour 16, the Nobel Prize process activates, and what it does to your cells will disturb you and fascinate you in equal measure. And at the end, 3 facts that most doctors never bring up in the exam room. We're going to say them out loud, but first, an honest question. When was the last time you went more than 12 hours without eating? On purpose, by choice. Most people, if they're being real, will say never. We've been told for decades that eating every 3 hours is the foundation of good health. That skipping breakfast is dangerous. That grazing keeps your metabolism fired up. Physiology tells a completely different story. Your body is not a car engine that needs a constant drip of fuel to stay running. It's a self-maintaining biological system with a built-in maintenance mode. A mode that only activates when you stop loading it down with food. We're about to walk through that process, step by step, from your last bite to the deepest level of biological renewal your body is capable of. By the time we're done, you will never look at food, or the space between meals, the same way again. You put down your fork. That's the starting gun. Here's exactly what happens in the first moments after your last meal. Your stomach begins mechanical and chemical breakdown. Proteins get dismantled into amino acids, the raw building blocks your body will use for repair and growth. Carbohydrates are converted into glucose and sent into the bloodstream. And the moment your blood sugar starts rising, your pancreas notices immediately. It fires up production of insulin, the central character in everything we're about to talk about. Think of insulin as an air traffic controller. Every glucose aircraft that enters the bloodstream needs direction. Insulin decides where each one lands. Muscle cells, brain cells, vital organs. They all get their fuel. Whatever's left over gets routed to storage. And here is the single most important thing you need to understand before we go any further. While insulin is elevated, your fat cells are physically locked. Not because your body doesn't want to burn fat. Not because your metabolism is broken. It's chemically impossible for fat to be released from storage while insulin is high. The molecular pathway is simply blocked. Now think about what happens when you eat every 3 hours. Like most health advice has told you to do. Insulin spikes, comes down partway. You eat again. It spikes again. It never drops low enough. Your fat stores never become accessible. You are, quite literally, sitting on a warehouse full of energy with the door sealed, complaining that you're running out of fuel. The analogy is almost absurd when you see it clearly. A person who's sitting on a chest full of gold, going broke. In these first hours after eating, everything feels fine. Blood sugar is stable. Glycogen, the stored sugar in your liver and muscles, is topped off. There's a mild feeling of warmth, steadiness, ease. Your body is coasting on what you just gave it. No alarms, no stress signals. But the countdown has already started. Somewhere in the next few hours, your body is going to hit a crossroads, a biological fork in the road. The path you allow it to take from that moment determines everything that follows. Most people don't even know the crossroads exists. They just feel a twinge of hunger and reach for something to eat. And in doing so, they reset the clock to zero without realizing it. The people who understand what's actually happening at that moment, they make a different choice. And the consequences of that choice, compounded over weeks and months, are almost impossible to overstate. That crossroads arrives at hour 4, and almost nobody is ready for it. Hour 4, your blood glucose is dropping. Insulin is pulling back with it, and your brain is starting to pay attention. This is when your stomach releases ghrelin. You know ghrelin by its street name, hunger. A low-level rumble. A slight edge of irritability. Your concentration drifts from whatever you're working on and lands, almost against your will, on food. You start mentally cataloging what's in the fridge. You feel a pull toward something sweet, something salty, something immediate. Sound familiar? This is the fork. And it is the single moment where 90% of people reverse course. They grab a snack, pour a coffee with cream, eat a handful of something. And in 60 seconds, insulin spikes again. The fat stores lock back up. The biological clock resets. Game over until the next attempt. But what happens to the 10% who stay with it? Something quiet and important begins. Your liver gets the message. No new supplies incoming. Time to use what we have stored. It starts breaking down glycogen, the emergency glucose reserve, and releasing it steadily into the bloodstream to keep your blood sugar stable. You don't collapse. You don't get weak. You don't go into starvation mode. Your body simply shifts to a different fuel tank. One you've had your entire life but rarely use. The analogy is straightforward. Imagine someone who's driven a car every single day for 30 years and suddenly has to walk. The first block feels strange, awkward, inefficient. Their legs aren't broken. They work perfectly. They've always worked. They just haven't been used in a long time. That discomfort you feel around hour 4? It is not a danger signal. It is a switching signal. Your body is changing fuel sources for the first time in years. The system that was always designed to do this, the one that kept your ancestors alive through winters and droughts and failed hunts, is waking up, slowly, a little creakily, like any system that hasn't run in a while. What most people call hunger at this stage isn't actually hunger in the biological survival sense. It's withdrawal from a pattern. It's your body asking a habitual question, where's the next meal? And getting silence instead of an answer. The silence is the point, because when the silence continues, when you don't reach for the snack, don't reset the clock, don't send insulin back up, the process deepens. And at hour 8, something happens that most people, eating the standard American diet, have genuinely never experienced. Their body unlocks its fat stores for the first time. Hour 8. Your glycogen reserves are running low. The liver has been drawing them down steadily since hour 4, and now the well is almost dry. Your body reaches a decision point, a genuine metabolic crossroads, and it makes the call. It opens the fat cells. Insulin has dropped far enough, the lock is off. An enzyme called lipase activates and begins breaking down triglycerides stored in your fat tissue, releasing fatty acids directly into your bloodstream. For the first time in potentially years, you are burning your own stored body fat. Not because of a diet, not because of a supplement or a pill or a program, simply because you stopped eating long enough for the chemistry to work the way it was designed to. The fat burning itself, as satisfying as that is, turns out to be almost a side effect. Because what happens next is what scientists have spent decades studying. Your liver takes those circulating fatty acids and converts them into ketone bodies. 3 specific molecules, acetoacetate, beta-hydroxybutyrate, and acetone. If you've heard of the ketogenic diet, those are the compounds it's named after. But here's what most people miss. Ketosis isn't a diet invention. It's a natural biological state that activates anytime you go long enough without food. It's been happening in humans for hundreds of thousands of years. The diet just mimics it with food choices. Why does this matter so much for your brain? Your brain consumes roughly 20% of your body's total energy, an extraordinary amount for 3 pounds of tissue. And the brain is selective. It cannot run directly on fat. It needs either glucose or ketones. That's the only choice. When ketones show up in your bloodstream at hour 12, something remarkable happens. Your brain doesn't just tolerate them as a fuel substitute. It actively prefers them. Ketones produce more ATP, the cellular currency of energy, per molecule than glucose does, with significantly less oxidative waste as a byproduct. The difference is like burning seasoned hardwood versus wet cardboard. Both produce heat. One burns hotter, cleaner, and longer. Your brain feels the difference immediately. People who practice extended fasting describe the same thing almost universally. Somewhere around hour 12 to 14, a mental fog lifts that they didn't even fully realize was there. The post-lunch crash, the 2 p.m. heaviness that makes you want to put your head on your desk, disappears. Thoughts come faster. Focus sharpens. There's a clarity that feels unusual, only because it's unfamiliar. From an evolutionary standpoint, this is not an accident. A hungry animal had to become smarter and faster to find food, not slower and foggier. Any species that became mentally impaired when food was scarce would have been extinct in a generation. Evolution did not make that mistake. It wired the brain to sharpen under scarcity. We live in a world where food is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We've never allowed that ancient sharpening mechanism to engage. And then we wonder why we can't focus after lunch. That's not a character flaw. That's chemistry you've been accidentally suppressing every single day. But the most significant thing that's about to happen isn't happening in your brain. It's happening at the cellular level, in every cell in your body, simultaneously. And it's the reason a scientist won the Nobel Prize. Hour 16. Nutrient levels in your blood have dropped significantly. Insulin is low. Amino acids are scarce. And in response to that signal, something activates inside every cell in your body that most people have never heard of. It's called autophagy. From the Greek, auto meaning self, phagy meaning eating. Literally, self-eating. That sounds alarming. Stay with it. Because what it actually describes is one of the most elegant engineering solutions in all of biology. In 2016, a Japanese scientist named Yoshinori Ohsumi was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for mapping this mechanism. He didn't invent it. It was already there, working inside every human cell. He figured out how it worked. And when he published the results, it changed the way science thinks about cellular health, aging, and disease. Here's the picture. Every cell in your body is a miniature factory. Things get made, used, worn out, and broken. Over time, components inside the cell start to fail. Mitochondria, the power generators, become inefficient. Proteins fold incorrectly and start to accumulate. Pathogens like bacteria and viruses learn to hide inside cells to avoid detection. In normal operating conditions, All of that broken material just piles up. The cell keeps running, but it runs worse. And over years and decades, that gradual accumulation of cellular debris expresses itself as fatigue, chronic inflammation, and accelerated aging. Autophagy is the cleanup system. When nutrient levels drop low enough, specifically when insulin falls and a key enzyme called AMPK rises, the cell activates specialized structures called autophagosomes. Think of them as cleanup crews moving through the factory floor after closing time. They identify damaged components, wrap them up, and transport them to the cell's recycling center, the lysosome. There, the broken pieces get dismantled and converted back into raw molecular material that the cell uses to build new, clean, functional components. The cell renovates itself from the inside. No drugs, no procedures, no outside intervention. What specifically gets recycled? Defective mitochondria, the ones generating oxidative stress instead of usable energy. Misfolded proteins, the type that multiple research lines have connected to Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. And intracellular pathogens, bacteria and viruses that have learned to evade the immune system by hiding inside your cells. Autophagy finds them. Autophagy eliminates them. This is not a metaphor for cleansing. This is a measurable biochemical process with identified markers, documented mechanisms, and peer-reviewed research behind it. And here's the critical point. Autophagy does not activate when nutrients are constantly flowing. It requires a scarcity signal. Specifically, the drop in amino acids and insulin, the rise in AMPK, and the suppression of a molecular switch called mTOR. When mTOR is active, your body is in growth and storage mode. When mTOR is suppressed, as it is during extended fasting, your body shifts into repair and cleanup mode. Growth or repair. Your body does one or the other. It cannot run both simultaneously. Every time you eat, you signal growth. Every time you stop, you signal repair. And in a culture where food is available constantly, most people never ever signal repair. That's the real reason people who practice extended fasting frequently report improvements in skin clarity, reduction in chronic joint inflammation, better mental focus, and a general sense of physical renewal. It's not placebo. It's not a coincidence. It's autophagy doing its job, finally given the conditions it needs to run. But there's one more thing happening at this stage, something that answers the question almost everyone asks, something that demolishes the most persistent myth about fasting. The objection that stops most people before they even begin sounds like this: if I don't eat, I'll lose muscle. You've probably heard it. You may have believed it. It's the reason thousands of people set alarms to eat protein every 3 hours. The reason they panic if a meal gets delayed. The reason they abort an extended fast at hour 7 out of fear. Here's what actually happens. In response to the absence of food, your pituitary gland dramatically increases its output of human growth hormone. Studies show that over the course of a 24-hour fast, growth hormone levels can rise by 2 to 5 times above baseline. That is not a small fluctuation. That is a substantial, measurable hormonal surge. What does growth hormone do? Among its many functions, it sends a direct signal to your body's tissues. Burn fat for fuel. Protect muscle. Do not cannibalize lean tissue. This is not an accident of biology. It is a feature, one that evolution engineered over millions of years. Think about it from a survival standpoint. An organism that responded to food scarcity by burning its own muscle first would be an organism that couldn't hunt, couldn't run, couldn't compete for its next meal. That organism would not survive. The species would not persist. Nature did not make that mistake. Evolution built a protection mechanism. The longer the gap between meals, the higher the growth hormone, and the stronger the signal to preserve muscle tissue. The longer you fast, the more actively your body guards your lean mass. There's a second layer to this. Muscle protein breakdown only becomes meaningful when fat stores are exhausted or insufficient. For the vast majority of modern adults, particularly during a 16 to 24-hour fast, there is more than enough fat available. The body has no metabolic reason to touch muscle. It won't. What you end up with by hour 20 or 24 is a combination that is nearly impossible to achieve through normal eating. Low insulin, high growth hormone, active autophagy, stable blood sugar from fat metabolism, a brain running on clean ketone fuel. This is a specific metabolic state. Scientists have a term for it. It exists in the literature. And the only natural way to enter it is through an extended break from eating. No supplement replicates it. No meal timing hack approximates it. No diet produces this exact combination without the actual pause. Fat is burning. Muscle is protected. Cells are cleaning house. Your brain is running at a level of clarity most people associate with their best mornings. And all of it is happening without a single medication, without a procedure, without anything external at all. Just a pause. The pause your body has been designed for since long before grocery stores, since long before meal delivery apps, since long before food was available any hour of any day at the push of a button. One thing remains. The moment most people ruin everything without knowing it, the meal that comes next. After 16, 20, or 24 hours, your body is in a state of unusual readiness. Insulin sensitivity is at its peak, meaning your cells will respond to nutrients with exceptional efficiency. Your digestive system has had time to rest and recover. Inflammation markers have dropped. Your gut microbiome has gone through a natural selection process, with the most resilient bacterial strains surviving. You have done real, measurable biological work. And in about 60 seconds, depending on what you eat, you can either amplify everything you just accomplished or erase most of it. If the first thing you eat is fast carbohydrates, processed food, or a sugary drink, the resulting insulin spike will overwhelm the system you just spent hours optimizing. The crash is immediate. Fatigue, mental fog, heaviness, all of it hits within minutes. Your body goes from a state of precise biological calibration to a state of metabolic overload. But if you finish the way the process was designed to end, the results stack. Step 1. Protein. High-quality animal protein. Eggs, fish, poultry, beef. Your cells are coming out of an autophagy cycle that has broken down damaged components. They now need amino acids to build replacements. The timing is not incidental. Autophagy cleared the old material. Now the body needs raw ingredients for the new construction. Feed it what it's specifically asking for. Step 2. Fat. Avocado, olive oil, nuts, fatty fish. Your metabolism is already tuned to process fat efficiently. These foods will not trigger a significant insulin response. They will sustain stable, even energy for hours. No spike, no crash, no 3 p.m. collapse. Step 3. Micronutrients. Leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, fermented foods. These provide the potassium, magnesium, and B vitamins that support the cellular machinery you just ran hard for 16+ hours. Without them, you risk the fatigue and irritability that make people blame fasting for problems that are actually caused by a single missing electrolyte. Here's something that surprises most people. After an extended fast, your hunger and satiety signals become significantly more accurate. Leptin, the hormone that tells you you're full, and ghrelin, the one that signals hunger, begin interacting the way they were designed to. You stop when you're actually satisfied, not when you've overeaten. That distinction, maintained consistently, changes your relationship with food at a fundamental level. Now, one honest truth about starting. If you've spent years eating 6 small meals a day, your body is not going to adapt in 24 hours. The enzymatic systems that process fat metabolism need time to ramp up. The first few days may bring headaches, low energy, irritability. This is not a sign the approach is wrong. It's a sign that your body is recalibrating systems that have been running on one type of fuel for a very long time. 3 practical rules for the transition. First, go slowly. Move your first meal of the day 1 hour later than usual. Then 2 hours. Let the window expand gradually. Adaptation that happens incrementally sticks. Forced overnight changes create crashes and binges. Second, electrolytes. When insulin drops, your kidneys excrete sodium and water more aggressively. Most of the headaches and fatigue in the early days of fasting come from this, not from starvation. A pinch of sea salt in a glass of water, or a cup of broth, can resolve the symptoms in 20 to 30 minutes. Keep this close, it works. Third, sleep. If you are practicing extended fasting and consistently sleeping less than 7 hours, cortisol rises sharply. Elevated cortisol counteracts the majority of the positive effects we've walked through. Fat burning, growth hormone output, cellular repair. Fix the sleep first, add the fasting second, not the other way around. One important note before we close. Everything covered in this video is physiology. General information about how the human body works. It is not a medical recommendation. If you have diabetes, thyroid conditions, a history of disordered eating, or are pregnant or breastfeeding, consult your doctor before making any changes to your eating patterns. This information is for healthy adults with no underlying conditions. It works on a healthy foundation. That foundation has to come first. Here's the real answer to the question we started with. What actually happens when you stop eating? You don't starve. You don't break down. You activate biological programs that have been inside you since birth. Programs that the modern world, with its 24-hour food access and its snack every 3 hours culture, has been systematically suppressing. Insulin falls. Your fat stores open for business. Your brain shifts to the cleanest fuel it has ever run on. Your cells launch an internal renovation process that earned a Nobel Prize. Your growth hormone surges and puts your muscle under active protection. And your relationship with hunger, real hunger, biological hunger, becomes something clear and readable instead of a constant, anxious noise in the background. This isn't a trend. This isn't a biohack. This is how the human body was built to operate. It has been doing this for hundreds of thousands of years. It still knows how. It just needs the space to do it.